Hello, friends, and welcome back to I've Been There. I am so excited for today's episode because we're going to dive into a topic that I know so many of us struggle with. It's change. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt guilty for changing? Like maybe you've outgrown certain things, maybe you're afraid of what people will say, or maybe you just feel like you're supposed to be the same person you've always been, but deep down, you know you're evolving. Well, today I want to remind you of something very important. You don't need permission from anyone to grow, evolve, or change. Change is a part of life, and it's actually a sign that you're learning, growing, and stepping into the next season. So grab your cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's talk why it's time to stop apologizing for changing and start embracing it instead. I have to tell you, this is something I've wrestled with my entire life. For more than 20 years, I worked in healthcare. It was what I knew. It was what people knew of me. It's what they expected from me. And so when I made the decision to step into social selling, I felt the weight of that judgment. I was afraid. And I was afraid for different reasons, for many different reasons. Number one, I was afraid of what people would say. Would they take me seriously? And was I throwing away everything that I had worked so hard for? But here's the truth. I wasn't throwing anything away. I was just stepping into something new that I knew I was becoming this other person. And not a new person, but that other little person that's always been in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a gut feeling, like you always knew that you were meant for something else, that you were meant for something more. And so it's really scary to kind of let that other person out. But here's the truth about it all. If I had stayed stuck in what was comfortable just because it was familiar, I never would have discovered this incredible journey I'm on now. And I certainly wouldn't be here with you doing what I love and doing what brings me joy. So today I want to talk about why we resist change and why it's actually necessary and why it's so good to give yourself the permission to evolve without guilt. That's the big one. We got to do it without feeling guilty. So let's talk about why change is so scary. So for a lot of us, it just comes down to three things. Number one, fear of judgment. What will people say? What will people think? Why am I changing directions? Who does she think she is? Number two, I have a fear of failure. What if I'm not good at this new thing? What if I regret making the change? And number three, the pressure to stay the same. Because typically society tells us that we should just pick a path and stick with it. My generation, we were told when we were at the end of high school, you took two paths, but the majority of us took the path of our parents told us to find a job and be good at that job, be loyal to that job, and stay there until you retire. Or You could go to college, but if you went to college, you went to college to be a doctor or an attorney or some kind of profession like that. And once you took a path, you couldn't change that path. That was the one you were on, and that was it. And the pressure comes from that we feel guilty for outgrowing things like jobs and friendships and even versions of ourselves. Like that path that we went down, we feel guilty because we were always told you have to stay on that path. And if you get off of that path, then you've done something wrong. But here's the truth of it all, is change is not a betrayal of who you were. And it's not a bad thing. And you're not doing something wrong. It's just an evolution into who you were meant to be all along. So let's talk about why change is good. I want you to think about this for a minute. Imagine if you never changed. What if we were exactly the same person we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Look at all the things you wouldn't have learned. Look at all the opportunities that you would not have gotten, or all those opportunities that you let go by. Look at how you would not have grown into the person you are today, into the woman you are today. And change, it means that you're alive. It means that you're living and you're learning new things and you're becoming more of who you really are deep down. And here's something else to remember. It's okay to outgrow things. It's okay to outgrow a job, a routine, friendships, even versions of yourself. I know it can feel very uncomfortable, but some of the best things in life come when we allow ourselves to change. What if we had never taken the leap for that next step? What if I had never decided to start doing social selling? Because it's almost a domino effect. When you start one thing, then something else appears. And then this opportunity, and you're like, oh, well, that aligns with what I'm doing. And then, oh, there's some more opportunity. And oh, look at all these other women that I've been able to help because of these different steps and actions and these different things that are changing and the growth that is happening and the things that I am learning in this journey. It gets better and better and better. And it brings me more joy and it brings me more happiness. And I wouldn't have the life that I have now. And so that's proof that on the other side of fear, there's always something greater waiting for you. You just cannot let that fear hold you back. So how do we actually step into change without guilt? Here are the 4 things that I want you to remember. Let go. Let go of the guilt. You are not betraying your past self. You're honoring her because you're stepping into the next version of her. And that's what she wants you to do. That's why it's that nagging gut feeling. That's why you keep thinking about it. It's because it's in there and it wants out. Number 2, I want you to accept that not everyone will understand. And some people will resist your growth because they're afraid to change themselves. And that's okay. You know, I often do coaching calls and I talk to people all the time. And one of the biggest things we talk about is not everyone is going to understand, and maybe nobody is going to understand. And that's okay. Because the dream that you have was given just to you. And you're really the only person that can see that. So you don't need to ask anyone else, is it okay, or what do they think? Because they don't see your vision. So their answer is not what you need to hear, even if it's a supportive answer, because really they don't have all the information in order to give you that answer. Funny thing is, Kirk and I talked about this actually last night, and we talked about the dreams that we have, and we talked about dreams that we have personally, and then we talk about the dreams that we have together. And even the dreams that we have together, we both look at those visions differently. And even though he is 110% supportive of every single thing I want to do, even the crazy things, he still just has to kind of trust in what I'm telling him. Because again, those are my dreams and those are my visions. And as much as I can tell him about it, they're not on his heart, they're on mine. So don't be afraid and don't worry about those people that say, oh, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. I don't know. So-and-so tried it and it didn't work out for them. Throw the naysayers to the side. And number 3, start small if you need to. Change doesn't have to be huge. It can be as simple as just shifting your mindset, trying something new, or allowing yourself to even dream bigger. I talk a lot about fitness and getting healthier and things of that nature. And I'm telling you, every step I took, I started very, very small. Like, I didn't all of a sudden change my eating, change my exercise, start strength training, and do all the things all in one day. I started very, very small and took one action and one step at a time. That way it's stuck. And number 4, I want you to trust yourself. You do not need validation for others. If it's something that is calling to you, if it's on your heart, if it's in your gut, it's there for a reason, and you need to trust it. So here's my challenge for you for this next week. All right? I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, what is the one thing you've been scared to change? Maybe it's starting a new business. Maybe it's setting boundaries, changing careers, or just giving yourself permission to dream bigger. And then I want you to take one small step toward that action. I want you to take one small step toward that change. It doesn't have to be big, just one step in that direction for your next season. That's all it takes. Just trust yourself. You know you can. You know you can. I know you can. All right, so when you do this, I want to hear about it. I want you to either send me a message or comment on this podcast or comment on my social media post, but message me and tell me what change you're ready to embrace. Because I'm going to tell you, as much as this is your change and as much as this is your dream, to have a community of women around you that feel the exact same way you do, not the exact same dream. Okay, we don't all have to have the same dream. We don't all have to have the same vision. But we can come together and support one another. And when you have that, you have so much more. I just can't even explain to you how big that is. And we can all do this together. So remember, you don't need permission from anyone to evolve. You're the only one that needs approval. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. And you are allowed to step into the next version of yourself without fear, without guilt, and without apology. I hope this episode encouraged you today. And if you loved it, please subscribe and leave a review because you know it helps other amazing women just like you find this show. And as always, go out there, be wonderfully, fabulously, and imperfectly you. I'll see you next time.